One of my friends had given me the New Yorker when Brokeback Mountain and recommended that I have a look at it. He said it was quite good. And about 2/3 of the way through, I began to sob, and I sobbed all the way to the end. It was so affecting.
It really is I think, a kind of gut punch. You know, it just goes right to you, and it doesn't let you go.
Diana read the story in the New Yorker, like many other people, and insisted that I read it. I can't write short fiction, and I rarely read short fiction. But I did it, I read it, and I recognized, and my first reaction actually was I wish I had written it, because it's been laying there in the West for a long time. Attraction between cowboys.
I said, well, what do you think would make a good screenplay? And he said, I think it might. And I said, well, why don't we write Annie a letter? And he said, okay. So that was pretty much how it started.
I was in a gym and I was doing a treadmill. I was looking for something to read, and this was about, gosh, 6, 7 years ago. And saw a copy of the New Yorker magazine and opened it up and there's a story. And I just started reading it. Annie Proulx is a fabulous writer, and I couldn't finish the story during the exercise, so I swiped the magazine, took it home, and finished it. I heard that Larry McMurtry and Diana were writing it, and I thought, when I read it, I thought that'd be perfect for something for them to write.
Creatively, there are a few things that I found particularly challenging. First of all, 2 big writers. That's a lot of pressure, the legendary writers. And then structurally, it's very interesting, it's very challenging. It is an epic short story because the story covers a big territory, but it's a 30 pages short story.
When you take that short story and try to say, how do we make it into a feature film, it's not simply that you just add on extra scenes and somehow you get to the magical feature film length. You have to take a short story and make it novelistic. And that process proved to be incredibly detailed. Although Larry and Diana made it look easy, every single character had to have their own kind of world, their own worldview, somehow approachable in the course of the film.
You just have to figure out what to use and what not to use. And of course, sometimes even with a novel, you have to make up things because it's not all there.
We used every bit of that story. Virtually every sentence is used somewhere in the screenplay.
And it's still only 50 pages of the screenplay. It's only half of the screenplay. So we did have to make up the rest. We had to double it, essentially. But Annie's story, the blueprint was really there. So we could take a single sentence and just go.
And make a domestic scene of it, because what we added essentially was fleshing out the domestic life of the 2 guys, their marriages, their children, their troubles, etc. The domesticity was suggested. The problems in it were suggested, but we fleshed it out.
This is my house, this is my child, and you are my guest. You sit down before I knock your ignorant ass into next week.
And the process, I mean, I think Larry and I complement one another. We're really very different from one another. I mean, it's clear just by the way we write. He's on a manual typewriter and I'm on a computer. But he seems more interested in the women characters, certainly.
I read it and I was like, oh, wow. I always did recognize it as being the love story that it is. It's just being heartbreaking and very, very real. I mean, the level of honesty that the characters express in the dialogue in the story, that definitely appealed to me.
I wanted to be part of this movie because the script was so beautiful. I think the story is really incredible. That's something that you haven't seen before.
Larry seems to feel that I have more intuitiveness about the men than he does.
I read it. I loved the script. I thought it was the best screenplay I've read. And I guess for me, it's a story of how love transcends all.
The first time I read it, I just was immediately drawn to the idea that love stories were not told in this way, and it felt like the struggles and the trials that it takes to actually be in love and to keep it going, or that's what it's about.
We thought that we did a very precise script in which we got as much as you can get in an adaptation of what the author had put on the page.
We hooked up with Larry McMurtry and Diana Ossana to try to make the film back when I was an independent producer. And we tried for a couple of years and no one would pay much attention to us. It was just not a film that felt green lightable at the time.
Larry and Diana's screenplay was known certainly in Hollywood, it was known as one of the great unproduced screenplays. I think people were afraid of it. So it was no easy task to get the movie made, but the hope was if you make this movie, people will be impacted and affected by these characters and by their story.
When we formed Focus Features, and suddenly I and my partner David Lindy were on the other side of the desk, and it was up to us to greenlight it. So we kind of held our breath and said, let's go make it.
After the short story, I got the chance to read the screenplay, and it stayed with me. I started thinking about making the movie right away. I just know in the bottom of my heart, if I let this thing go, I regret for the rest of my life.
It's framed by the West, i.e., it can be called a Western. I don't really think of it as a Western. I think of it as a drama.
Not so much the movie genre Western, which is a fictionalized environment. It's not the gunslingers, but more of a Annie Proulx, Larry McMurtry kind of territory, realistic Western, rural life in west of America.
The West is rich in character and experience. It's a very real, gritty, raw. We like that. We like the reality of it.
It's a film that pays very careful attention to the specificity of the American West, as it really was and still is from the 1960s on through today. Larry McMurtry and Diana Ossana and Annie Proulx are enormously dedicated to the idea of paying attention to the smallest piece of verisimilitude they can find to give the story the depth and the grain of reality that it needs.
Larry McMurtry once wrote to me and warned me about the nonverbal culture in America. He says some ways it's harder to do than verbal culture.
It's a laconic culture, you know. People, of course, there are people who babble in any culture, but by and large, cowboys are laconic. They don't say much. They're alone a lot. They're not real comfortable in, you know, social situations in which there are 5 or 6 people to talk at the same time. They tend to be alone with their horses.
That's the true America. Tough people, they come here, build a family, start anew. They're tough people.
But it is a story that's rural. It's about rural country people. It is about people from small towns. These are 2 young men that are very poor. They're not particularly educated. They don't have a lot of prospects. They're certainly not upper-class people. Their main drive in life is survival. They want to make enough money to buy a second shirt or get a new hat or feed themselves, maybe get their truck fixed. You know, their needs are very, very, very basic.
We are stewards of the story, and that we are pretty good stewards of it, and that, to me, it's still Annie's.
It's Annie's story. We stayed true to her writing. We stayed true to the characters and who those characters are as people. Our job in that regard is finished. We're sending it out into the world. It's like, I suppose, raising a child. You hope the child is successful and is accepted, and that's the best you can hope for.
It ceases to be yours. It becomes
the world's.
The world's.
I think Brokeback is Brokeback. It's abstract idea. I like the taste of that sound, Brokeback Mountain.
He's constantly inside your character's head and inside the movie, the story. It consumes him.
What Ang is doing with it is very, it seems almost quiet in a way. It's very dynamic, very dramatic.
You trust him completely, and so anything he tells you, you don't argue because you know he's right.
I admire him so much for the variety of films that he does and the emotional quality of his films. I think that he's definitely the perfect director to tell this important story.
He is a fantastic director. I love his movies. He always does very different things, but they do have this wonderful emotional through line.
It needed to find that person who was going to make it into the kind of like take it to a metaphysical level rather than just play it on just this is a story about 2 gay cowboys. It had to be really about love, you know? And I think there's no better person to do that.
Ang was always the right person to write this movie. From the minute I read the screenplay, Ang was the guy.
It just happened that I was so beat up from production for the past 10, 15 years. Physically, I was kind of recovering from making all those big movies. At the end of that, I thought I would either retire or take a very long break, at least for a year. And one day I asked, what happened with Brokeback Mountain? Have you made it yet? I was glad that nobody ever made that movie, and it still was available at that time. So before I know I could physically do it, I jumped on right away.
Historically, Ang's movies have had a wide scope and a very narrow scope at the same time. You know, you've got Crouching Tiger that takes place over a vast landscape, but the stories are very intimate. The Ice Storm is the vast landscape of suburbia, and his sense of emotion, his intuitiveness about that, I think it makes him very good.
The characters of Brokeback Mountain are very similar to the characters from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. They are in an impossible place, but they have to be in that place. They have to live in that place to the fullest of their ability.
I always like making dramas, which is about conflict. You put different ingredients, which is in conflict with each other, in through which you examine humanity. To me, the dramatic core is to find that Brokeback Mountain, so to speak. It is elusive. It is romantic. It is something that it hits you that you keep wanting to go back.
He saw in it what I think you've seen in a lot of Ang's films, which are, these are characters, these are people who are absolutely extensions of where they're from and are products of their environment.
And it's a love story. It has everything to do with the culture, with the landscape, with nature. Everything they feel is private. They have to privatize their feelings. It's precious, it's private, it's something very special that they cannot articulate. So that's something so interesting to me.
Ang is all about detail and slight difference between one color and the other. He does have a very good sense of composition and is very keen about the elements being in the specific place where it'll guide the eye of the spectator.
He's such a master with the camera that, you know, the beauty of the shots is almost equally as important as the interaction between the characters.
It's been very exciting to see it come to the screen and how he's been capturing it and visually what he's brought to the piece.
If there's one thing that Ang is about, it's not about giving you a lecture, it's not about being politicized and telling you what the correct analysis of things is. The one thing he's about is emotion.
He understands the emotions so completely of the characters that he transmits it through sort of physical means. He's able to let me know exactly what it is he's looking for by using few words and a great deal of emotion somehow. He emotes, in other words, what it is that he wants.
He really does most of his work with the casting. And it's the old saying, acting world, that casting is pretty much 90% of it. You know, once he's cast the part, then he lets the actor go and create.
I mean, I think he really trusts the actors. I feel like he really trusts me, which really makes me feel empowered.
You know that if he says he has a shot, you know he has the shot, and it's probably going to be some of the best work you've ever done.
Ang's a very silent man. He's very selective about the information he gives you. His attention to detail is microscopic. He's someone who constantly puts you in this position of wanting to do better for him.
So in my midlife, I did come back and try to relearn how to make movies, enjoy making them, just find my love for filmmaking, feel healthy. It's like a healing process. So I did find that love.
Ang is a gentleman that likes to shoot who he casts. So when he casts an actor, he likes to see the actor. But we make it in the comfort level for the actor to do, and we work the actors and get their involvement in it. This particular production, definitely the talent on this show is doing the action. There's a couple of situations where we do have some doubles working for them, but generally speaking, or all of our talent that's involved definitely are into it. T.J. Buse put them into a cowboy camp organized by him to bring them out to the ranch and have them do all the mannerisms, right from working with the dogs and the sheep to riding the horses and making sure that they're comfortable.
Only had one day with Heath, but he's pretty handy, and already. He's worked on some horse shows, so I don't worry about him too much.
It's pretty much a natural thing for Heath. I think he grew up doing those things.
I knew how to ride a horse. I know how to, like, all that comes, it's kind of second nature to me. I can split a log. I kind of grew up on farms.
He can ride a horse like a professional. He rides a horse like he was born on one.
It was very comfortable. I just slotted into that quite easily.
Heath especially has done a lot of riding, I would say, from watching him, like in Australia and whatnot. But they ride a different style, like they ride more English than Western. And it's not really so much teaching them as just letting them know that there's a different way of doing things. And, well, they took to it real good.
I mean, Heath has known how to ride since he was a little kid, and he's done so many movies that were, you know, he's ridden a horse, so I feel safe enough around, you know, riding around Heath that if something goes wrong, he'll be able to fix it, make it look better.
Well, Jake, we know he's a good young actor. We need to train him to be a cowboy. I throw him into a camp and then rough him up and chopping woods and herding sheep.
I came here probably about a month before we started shooting, and I started riding and learning how to rope a little bit and playing with some sheep and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, there was definitely cowboy camp. There was, I mean, that's what we called it, cowboy training camp.
I had about 3 days with Jake. I sort of give him the crash course and everything, from riding to roping, packing mules, all those basic things that they got to do. And he came along really well.
I'm not really a cowboy, you know, and I think that's a great thing with this part. Like, I've learned how to ride horses, and I've learned how to kind of wrangle sheep up, and I've learned how to do the cowboy things, but my struggle with trying to do it for real is what I think Jack is sort of an essence of Jack, the character of Jack, you know. So I've kind of held myself back because I think that he's trying really hard, you know, like that's who Jack Twist is to me.
Anne Hathaway came out to the ranch as well and did a lot of riding and some barrel racing to get her worked up to her sequence. And she come already to this production with experience.
I'd been on a horse before, and I'd learned to fake it on film, but I didn't really want to do that for this one. I wanted to get in there and do it, so I took riding lessons, but ultimately, barrel racing is very different than fun, gentle lopes around Central Park. But I still give myself credit, I can learn, because Skylar, my stunt double, she's been doing it since she was like 4.
Anne's double is ranked number 6 in the world right now for high school rodeo, for barrel racing.
So she had a head start. I'll catch up. I will.
The rodeo cowboys that you see here, the bull riders we got, Dublin and Jake, for instance, are bull riders. They're professional bull riders. What we've done here, we've established Jake getting on a bull. We've handpicked our bull that I feel comfortable Jake getting down on. We've taught him how to work with his rope, put his hand in, basically get ready, then put the double in. And we got 2 different doubles. We bucked the doubles, and tonight we're going to buck those doubles here. And we had his double work with them and talk to him through the sequence and just make sure that, you know, he's doing it right. To get Jake actually bucking, what we've done, we brought in a mechanical bull and put him on the bull and did the safety mats around, prepped him on it, and we shot it, and he was fabulous. Jake did good. I mean, he's a trooper. He's here to get it done, and he wants to look good, so he gets into it. If an actor has the natural ability of what they have to do within the script, it brings so much more to the screen. To anybody that wants to utilize Heath, Jake, and Anne in the future, they definitely have a lot of talent to offer.